In the gospel reading this morning, we'll continue our study of the Gospel of Mark. And this morning I'm reading from chapter 10, beginning with verse 46. So listen for the word of the Lord. They came to Jericho, and Jesus and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho. Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy upon me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." And they called the blind man, saying to him, "Take heart, get up, he's calling you." So throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. Then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." Immediately he regained his sight and followed Jesus on the way. This is the gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ. Praise to you, O Christ. Thank you, Adrian. I told her this is preaching juice. When I was a boy, probably 10 or 12, our family lived in Oak Cliff. And if you're familiar with Texas at all, and especially the Dallas area, you know that Oak Cliff is on the west side of the Trinity River, and it's the dry side of Dallas. Well, every Saturday, we had a certain routine that we went through. Dad had his chores to do and the lawn to mow. Mom had laundry and house cleaning. So to get me, my brother, and my sister out from under their feet, they would give me just enough money, usually $2, and they would get me to take my brother and sister to the local theater for the Saturday matinee. So together the three of us would walk up to the corner and wait for the Beckley number 22 bus, which went south on Beckley to Jefferson Avenue. We disembarked on Jefferson Avenue, and once we safely crossed the street, we would run to the old Texas Theater on Jefferson. We would arrive out of breath, just in time for the first matinee. The man behind the glass window took our quarters, and we would gladly leave the light of day to enter the dark adventure that awaited us in the theater. The thick velvet curtain that covered the screen slowly parted, and suddenly we were in the world of Tarzan or Godzilla, Cinderella, Roy Rogers, the Three Stooges, or John Wayne. We would eat greasy popcorn and milk duds, and we'd wash it down with a cold Dr. Pepper. And for 2 hours in that place, we were transported to another world. Then the curtain would slowly close and the lights would come back on, and we would slowly make our way up the aisle to the lobby where our shoes felt like they were sticking to the floor. Walking back to the bus stop, we took our time, looked in the windows, looked around at what was going on. We weren't in a hurry to get home. But when we got back to the bus stop, there was a man there. Every Saturday, he was there. I don't know how long he had been there, but I remember when I first saw him, when I first really saw him. He was there on the corner of Beckley and Jefferson, right by the bus stop, seated on the pavement. He had on a heavy coat that was ripped at the seams, baggy gray pants, and work boots. His face looked dirty, with brown tobacco stains sort of coming down from his mouth. The hair sticking out from under his cap was grayish, wild and thin. He wore glasses that were so dark you couldn't see the eyes behind them. His old dog laid there by his feet near the tin cup that was on the sidewalk. His red-tipped white cane leaned up against the wall beside him. And whenever he heard a coin clang into his cup, he would say, "Thank you," and then he would play a tune on his harmonica. As far as I can remember, that blind beggar was always at the bus stop near the theater every Saturday afternoon. I never knew his name. I had no idea where he lived, how he got to this corner, or how he made his way home. As far as I can remember, the blind beggar was always at the bus stop. Some of my friends said that he was just faking the whole thing, but somehow I knew he wasn't. I was certain he was blind. As we waited for the bus that would take us back to our neighborhood, I couldn't keep from watching him and watching how people reacted to him. Some people walked right past him as if he wasn't there. Some walked by slowly, staring at him. I saw a mother with children in tow lead her kids as far as she could to the edge of the sidewalk without stepping off the curb, just to avoid getting close to the man. Once in a while, someone would drop a coin in the cup, and we would hear the words of thanks, and another tune played. To those of us young matinee crowd, he was almost an extension of the movies, a strange visitor from another world. I don't know what happened to that blind beggar and his dog. And now as I look back and remember those days, I wonder if I wasn't suffering from some kind of blindness, a blindness that kept me from seeing him as he really was. Not just a beggar whose only words are thank you, but a man with pride, a smile, and a song. A man who deserved more than a few coins in a cup. A man who deserved the dignity that each of us deserve. It was a large crowd of people that were following Jesus. They had figured out where he was going. He was going to Jerusalem. The crowd was following him all the way. They had come into Jericho, and they were going to take the road up to Jerusalem, about an 8-mile walk uphill all the way. But there was Bartimaeus. His name means son of Timaeus. And I can get into the meaning of Timaeus on a higher level, but that'll be for another time. Bartimaeus, was in his usual place on the corner. He's blind, and he's been begging for years. To the crowd around him, he's nothing but a blind beggar, a man who sits by the roadside in the same place day after day. It's as if he's just part of the scenery. There he was, sitting with his cloak spread out over his lap, hoping people would stop and drop a coin or two in his cloak. He's just a blind beggar, period. But what if you were that blind beggar? What if you were Bartimaeus? Perhaps struck blind late in life due to a disease or an injury. You can still remember what it's like to see everything clearly. You can remember the colors, the faces of the people that you love. And you remember those, and you cherish those. And what is remembering but just hope kept alive? And what is hope but a deep yearning to clearly see again? Now, there are people who ignore you, give no thought to your past or your future. You stretch out your feeble hand and ask for help, trying to appeal to one's sense of pity. And occasionally a coin is tossed onto your cloak, and with eyes that see nothing, you look up and say, "Thank you, thank you. May He who is most holy bless you." But most people ignore you. Some are offended and disgusted with you. Yet you have hope. You yearn to see like you once did. Behind your eyes, you feel the pain of rejection. You know the cruelty of others. You understand what it feels like to be shunned, shamed, and shackled by guilt, laughed at and tormented by the children. In your present condition, you are always an outsider. But still, there is hope within you. You know what you want. More than anything else in the world, you want to see again. There's a certain clarity that comes from knowing and understanding your true condition in life, knowing who you really are underneath the surface where you live, living there with your hurts, your fears, anguish, and hope. The truth of it all causes you to just want to scream, to cry, even to think about giving up. But the spark of hope that flickers in your heart keeps you going. Like you, Bartimaeus knows his true condition, but he also has heard wonderful things about this man, Jesus. When the large crowd comes down the road, Bartimaeus is hoping Jesus will see him. And you feel what he feels, don't you? You know what it is to feel all alone and abandoned. You remember what life used to be like. You remember the beauty you saw and experienced. And oh, how you want to go back there again. You too have come to believe that the man walking down the road toward you, followed by such a large crowd, is the one who can change your life, make things right again. The one who can make you whole. He's the one that can give you sight, the one who can bring you light. When Jesus approaches, your pulse begins to race. You feel a rush of adrenaline, and you worry that if you don't do something, your opportunity for healing, for sight, might just pass you by. So in desperation, you gather all your courage, and a great explosion of hope erupts in your soul, and you cry out to him, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy upon me." People around you push and snub you, and they tell you to be quiet and stop shouting. You recognize their voices, the voice of your parents, your teacher, your boss, those who've slammed the door in your face. You're not good enough to enter their sanctuaries. They won't invite you to their table for dinner. You've heard their coins clang in your cup occasionally. You've heard their whispers, their sarcastic laughter. And you've heard their footsteps as they scurry away. They have always tried to keep you in your place, and you have allowed them to do it. They've always told you that there's no hope for you, and you've believed them. But nothing can stop you now. Nothing can stop you from shouting out even louder. Once more, the cry comes all the way from the depths of your soul, surging against all resistance. Son of David, have mercy upon me. Lord Jesus, please notice me. Please just take a moment to see me and speak to me. Lord, I need you. You ever said that prayer? The cry of genuine faith always rises above the clamor of the crowd. The power of faith always overcomes the guilt and the shame. The courage of faith overcomes the rules of political correctness and politeness. And your last cry pierces the moment. And Jesus stops dead in his tracks. The crowd comes to a sudden halt. It grows very quiet. A familiar voice next to you whispers, "See what you've done now? I told you to be quiet." But Jesus says to his disciples, "Call him here." And as they come toward you, the crowd divides and slowly moves away and opens a clear pathway between you and the answer to your hopes and dreams. Someone takes you under the arm to lift you. "Take heart," you hear the new voice say. "Get up. He's calling you." You don't need to be told twice. You leap to your feet. Your cloak and the few coins that you've collected are scattered and roll around on the ground, and you run toward the voice that you heard. It was Jesus. Jesus was calling for you. And you must now come to him running, walking, skipping, stumbling, crawling, whatever it takes. All of your hope and strength is poured out for this one moment because he heard your cry. You can't see him. You reach out, but you can't feel him. Someone behind you takes you by the shoulders and turns you slightly to face him. And then you hear the voice. It's clear now. He's right there in front of you. A voice so warm, so friendly, so loving, speaking to you like you're a human being. Someone worth the attention that you're being shown. And he asks you one simple question. What do you want me to do for you? Can you imagine that? He's talking to you. He has acknowledged you, and now he wants to know what it is that you want from him. Well, okay, what is it? What do you want? What do you really want? Health? Security? A home of your own with a bed you can rest in safely every night? Do you want wealth? All of the latest gadgets everyone else has so that you can fit in? Do you want power so you can savor the sweet taste of revenge upon all those who have held you down with guilt and shame for so long? What will be your answer when the Lord of all creation asks you, what do you want me to do for you? So here we are this morning in the presence of the Lord, just like Bartimaeus. Do you want to see again? To see the beauty of life clearly again? In all of its fullness? Would you like to ask for just one more opportunity to be able to see others and to see the world as it really is and be given the chance to start all over again, just so you might be able to get it right this time? What would you say? How would you answer Jesus? You see, we, like Bartimaeus, are living in darkness, unable to see anything correctly or clearly. We're the victim of our own desires, our own plans, our own selfishness. Yet humbled by our disability, repenting of our inability to see beyond ourselves, and like the beggar that lives inside each one of us, we reach out for the only option we will ever have to feel alive again. And you say, please, let me see again. And then Jesus gently says, go, your faith has made you whole. Really? My faith did it? Or is it the one in whom my faith rests? Does it matter? Slowly, your vision returns. You see the light for the first time in decades, and it's so brilliant, but you don't want to squint or close your eyes because you're seeing. And His face is the first thing you see. And He's looking straight into your eyes. And He's looking at you like He's known you all of His life. As if everything about His life has been lived just for this moment. Just for you. So now you see again. You can see the world and nature. But to see yourself in the brilliant light of God's unending love is something different altogether. He doesn't tell you to follow Him. He doesn't tell you to give everything